For as long as the sun had shined, and the moons have risen into the darkness of night, there has always been one family that has gone down in legend. A family name that is synonymous with grace, love, and power. The Fireheart royal family has shaped the world in ways one can only dream of. A world full of equality and abundance, where one could live the life they want to live without burden or worry. This is a story of how one family has carved a world of utopia and paradise. This is the story of the Firehearts. The Fireheart royal lineage can be traced back to the inception of Arcturus a little over a millennium ago. Back then, the city-state of Arcturus was still a bustling city. Some believe that Arcturus was part of a society before the current world everyone knows today. Something foreign and much harsher than anyone can imagine to this day. It wasn't until, as legend has it, a man whose name was lost to time rose from the shadows and transformed the world into what it is known today. Shifting from a place of despair, he would rid the world of its captors and give people a second chance at life, something that no one at the time would have ever dreamed would become real. While the man's name, along with his wife's, were lost to time, it would be his child that would go down in history as the first official Fireheart. Ash Fireheart had become a legend due to the amazing things that this individual had done to establish the island nation of Galea. Ash hid the nation away from a world of wickedness behind a veil of clouds in order to save the people they loved. Ash created the sun that warms people's hearts every single day by pulling from the fierce fire that burned in their soul. They pulled the ocean up from the desolate wasteland that surrounded the nation and gave everyone life. Ash Fireheart is a name that everyone from the youngest of children to the oldest of residents know. When Ash had passed on in the early years of Galea, it was a dark day where everyone in the nation mourned the loss of one of the greatest people to have ever lived. Many people thought that once Ash was gone, then the greatness would stop there, and the world would go back to the darkness it was once in. But that never happened. Ash Fireheart's child would continue the great name that Ash had made, continuing on with the parents' noble work. The island nation of Galea would continue being the utopia it had become, and its residents would enjoy a life of splendor and ease. This would continue on for an untold number of years. That was until Galea had turned 1,000 years old. Then, a Fireheart would forever change the landscape and cast a looming darkness that everyone once thought was gone forever. Leading up to 1,000 years after Ash's passing, the Firehearts had created a close bond to another family called the Grimms. Many kings and queens that ruled over Galea had the Grimm name before marrying into the beloved family. It was said that if you were born a Grimm, you might as well change your last name to Fireheart, since the two families had married so many times to one another. This would continue on until one king of Fireheart blood had severely damaged the close bond the two families had by doing an unspeakable horror that no one had ever seen before. Kai Gareth Fireheart III was like any other ruler before him. He was beloved and ruled over Galea with fairness, much like his mother and father before him. Along with his wife, Gillian Fireheart, whose original name was Gillian Mayne Grimm, had introduced amazing technologies that only elevated the high standard of living that everyone had enjoyed. Flying airships, sentient robots, and floating homes were only some of the amazing technologies that he had made for everyone in Galea. But what was thought to be a gift to his subjects had turned out to be a curse. On the eve of the anniversary of Ash's passing, everyone had witnessed something horrible that is still burned into the minds of the survivors. On the screens that dotted the city, the residents watched in horror as Jillian's head had rolled onto the ground. Her husband, Kai, had watched with indifference as the blade that ended Jillian's life fell. As the horrid blade still rang in everyone's ears, the robots that helped the population had turned against them. One by one, towns and cities fell to the robotic onslaught, and hundreds of thousands of the Gillian population had been wiped from existence. All while Kai Fireheart watched, blaming the wife and nation that loved him for turning their back on him and labeling all of Gilead traitors. To this day, no one really knows why Kai Fireheart III labeled his home a traitorous nation. Liari Cassida Fireheart, whose portrait is being painted as we speak, is a daughter of the hero king and queen who ended the tyrannical rule of Kai Fireheart III, a dark period in history that had become known as the Machine Wars. Her parents had ended this dark period and brought back the peace that everyone had longed for. But the damage to the Fireheart name was done. The family hadn't been revered as it once was. Many people distrusted the family after Kai, otherwise known as the disgraced king, scared that one day a ruler might snap once again and do even more damage. After the hero king and queen had mysteriously vanished one night, it fell to the inexperienced hands of Princess Liari, turned Queen Liari, to mend the relationship that her grandfather had ruined. The world that everyone had enjoyed was changed. The utopia that everyone had loved was only a distant memory that lived in the minds of the survivors of the Machine Wars. Arcturus was a city full of bandits now. The small towns that dotted Morgrove Forest were havens for cutthroats, built upon the remnants of the Firehand, Kai Fireheart's army. The world was in ruins. But that didn't deter the young queen from trying to bring back the love the Firehearts once had, to bring back the utopia that Gilead was once known for. While she is still young and still very much inexperienced, having her son, who had become known as the Prince of Fire, by her side motivated her more than anyone ever could. So yeah, thanks for listening to my story. I figured I'd do something a little bit different as opposed to all the boring technical thinking mumbo jumbo I usually do. As I mentioned in previous videos, I've been trying to craft a story that would be just as interesting as the game itself, if not even more. And this is only one aspect of the entire story that I've written. I've never even mentioned the night, all the treasure hunters, heck, I haven't even mentioned the treasure itself, which is the big aspect to the entire story. But I'll get to it one day. Anyways, again, thanks for tolerating me and sitting through one of my videos, and I guess I'll be back or whatever later on with something different. Until then, I'll talk to you later.